Okie doke. I am so thrilled to have this DJ on for Femme House Radio this week. She is a powerhouse in the DJ scene. Eva Myra May, who is a LA by way of New York, and New York by way of LA.
By way of New York, actually. Yeah, I'm here in LA now. I have been for about 8 years now.
LA DJ by way of New York is an electronic musician, producer, and DJ with a focus on unconventional synthesis and channeling emotional statements about identity, vices, and virtue across multiple genres. Her style stems from her NYC electro clash indie background, while later moving to LA and thriving, serving queer underground dance and electronic collectives. She's now pulling from house and techno and their progressive subparts from all over the world and combining them with her long history of inspirations from local projects in New York, SF, and LA. She's had releases on Never Be Alone Records, founded by Miha, we
Shout out.
stand, KRO Records, Farmhouse, and has recently opened for the likes of Hot Chip, love, Justin J, Reggie Watts, yes, and Bia. Eva Myra May, welcome to
Thanks for
Fab
having
House
me.
Radio.
Thanks for having me.
I I am so excited for you to be here. Um, so tell me, I mean, uh, first off, as a indie dance, indie sleaze, alternative rock girly, um, whose first real exploration into dance music was LCD Sound System. I am beyond blessed to be able to be speaking with you today because I know that your roots run deep. Um,
Yeah.
so tell
LC.
me a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, LCD sound system is it's a big part of that journey for sure. I moved to New York. Um, I want to say 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. And definitely started going to a lot of LCD sound system shows around that time. A lot of other bands too, but they were definitely, kind of leading the scene. I remember seeing a lot of great bands during that time. Carano and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs were a big favorite of mine, but also just the, top down, if you speak of LCD, and then eventually playing Madison Square Garden multiple nights. Like everything below that scene, I think, all the way down to the local venues was really my experience in New York, was just trying to check out as many different friends' bands as possible. There was a lot of really great underground venues in Brooklyn at the time. Not that there still aren't, but these ones in particular were all kind of not existing anymore. But that's kind of what happens with a lot of these venues. But yeah, 287 Kent was one that in particular I was a huge fan of. At the time, I think they all got bought out by a larger corporation, all of the real estate, and so it was kind of pretty sad to see like five or six venues all go in one fell swoop. But yeah, a lot of my history is starts in New York, and I spent about a decade there. And I play guitar and piano and in a bunch of different bands. It wasn't until I moved to LA that I really started to move into dance music and electronic music. So I would say that LA had a big part in helping me kind of move forward in my musical journey, and really fell in love with it. But at the same time, I still have these roots in indie rock and indie sleaze, and it's kind of nice to be able to pull from genres outside. I mean, dance music to me, like, and what's so special about house music is the amalgamation of so many other different um, music scenes and genres kind of being pulled into one, you know, cohesive experience for everyone. Just enjoying yourself and living your best life on the dance floor.
I love that. And having been familiar with your music through Miha, our shared connection via Never Be Alone, you can definitely hear that spirit in the music that you've produced, particularly Voltage 87. Um, So tell me a little bit about kind of your sound now and how it's evolved from, where it was before to where you are currently.
Yeah, my the first instrument I learned was a guitar, particularly acoustic guitar, and I grew up doing a lot of singer-songwriter stuff, and eventually learning piano in my early 20s, and kind of switched to that full time. But for the most part, I was kind of switching between bass guitar, guitar, and piano in a lot of different like kind of rock bands. And then moving out to LA and my tastes in life and so much about me was changing, and I would say even my workflow. And I kind of got my first synthesizer. Not that I hadn't kind of played with them before, but I just kind of took the leap into just going full electronic and kind of putting down the guitar for quite a while. I still play piano quite a bit, and that lends itself nice to, um, my workflow now. I would say though I got really into modular synthesis about 5 years ago. And that kind of opened my eyes to all sorts of forms of synthesis, really. And I think for me, I'm just kind of like a um, tech nerd, and I really like the technology science behind working with music for so long and then kind of really understanding more about it. That came through kind of diving into synthesis for me. And so now I'm just working with all sorts of interesting gear. I love reading manuals and trying new things because each little piece of hardware kind of has its own workflow. And to me, that's where the interesting stuff comes out of, or like the constraints with when, what you have to work on. I like working in different DAWs for that reason too, because it's kind of nice. Like you think you're comfortable in one, and then you pull up and open another, and you kind of got to revisit your workflow a little bit. And I think that's like a healthy thing to do. So I'm never really staying in one place for too long, and yeah, I'm kind of just obsessed with gear, buying new gear, selling it, trying something different. Seeing what other people are using, that sort of stuff.
Work, preach, preach. Similarly, I've been finding myself recently, like as it comes to my music as well, like finding myself kind of bored. Like whenever I find myself in a rhythm where it's just like, oh, like all these ideas are snapping in place the way they should, and then I go, wait, maybe this is too streamlined because like now I'm starting to get a little bit uh, less enthusiastic about whatever I'm making. I need to make this interesting for myself.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
which kind of brings me to my next point, because um, you obviously having been around the block for a little bit, having opened for the likes of Hot Chip, having gone from a more dance oriented background, sorry, a more rock oriented background to a more electronic oriented background. Um, who would you say have been your largest influences when it comes to producing your music? And who would you say are the artists that are under the radar now that you think people should be looking out for?
Sure. Yeah, in terms of under the radar now, definitely check out Trussie. She is a Bay Area, LA artist making some incredible bass music, sound system music. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's booty shaking, and um, it's bassy, and she's got a ton of original productions and dub plates, and she's just killing it right now. And definitely would recommend checking her out for sure. Another great DJ here in LA that I'm a big fan of is Ethical Drugs. And I've known her for quite a bit. She's one of the first people I really met in the dance scenes here in LA. She's done incredible work for the community, and also just like rips a really mean trance set. She loves her trance, and it gets emotional, and she's always showing me new stuff and making me cry during her sets. And yeah, definitely check out Ethical Drugs. And what was the former question? You were saying some of the influences, right?
Yeah, some of your influences, like the things that you know, when you are looking for inspiration that you kind of like dive back into to give you that extra wind when you're in the studio?
Yeah, I mean, vinyl is a big part of my process, and it has been with DJing. But I've been collecting vinyl since, gosh, as soon as I could start kind of collecting things, vinyl was on that list. So it's been going for a long time. So I would say that there's plenty to dig in here in this collection that I have going, and it spans for so many years that I'm able to kind of like dive into a particular year of my life, knowing which records were there, and revisiting those under the context of like what I know now. Like that's really huge. Sometimes I'll sample things. Other times I'll just kind of like lift songwriting techniques or certain interesting structures and just try not to like stay in one place. And I am a collector of like all kinds of genres and from different stages in my life and different tastes. And I will say that like for me, music is like the expansiveness of so many different styles. Like love everything, and I know that kind of everyone kind of says that a lot, and it's a common like phrase you hear. But for me, I think that what it means is if someone I know or care about is interested in something that I don't really know about, like I want to know why, and I'll most likely become interested in it as a way to connect with people, because I kind of find that music is like just for one, my favorite way to connect with people, but it really is just kind of like a universal language, and that's kind of how I've gone through life.
Yeah.
And so all these different stages and people that I've met, I will sort of collect taste from them in that way, and then I have this like huge collection and long journey of those different tastes, and I get to revisit those at certain times and reflect on them, and also connect with new people over them as well.
Um, so you said you have a very extensive vinyl collection. What would you say are maybe two or three of your most prized gem records that you have in your collection?
Gosh, probably my Sophie records. I keep those in a box all together, but um,
Original pressing, or are they? Oh,
yeah,
love that.
I have a set of the original product EPs. They came on singles, 45s. And then, I mean, honestly, I have a whole box of just, Sophie and Arca that gets stored away because I revere their stuff so much. And I'd say that they're both definitely like inspirations coming from other trans artists. Um, and what else? I mean, some of my most prized records are, random records that I'm just now discovering and feel late to the party on. But to me, it's important, and I can't find it anywhere online, and it's kind of like a, tough to find 12-inch, and I'm just really into it. I'm trying to think right now. Is specifically this DJ Chrome, Who's Crying Now. And on the B side, there is this Funk Freaks remix. The Who's Crying Now is actually a Journey sample flip. I'm trying to think. I think this is probably from 2003. But I've just been really into this lately, and it cost me like, a couple dollars. And I feel like, to me, this is more prized to me because I've just been playing a lot, and it's making me feel really good, as opposed to maybe some record on the shelf that might have accrued value because of, it being rare or something. I tried
I
at some point. I
oh,
tried to move away from the sort of when collecting records, it gets to a point where you kind of get so attached to them and the monetary value, and thinking of, oh, this is a rare one, and at some point in my life I really tried to detach myself from that sort of thinking. I do sell a lot all the time, and it helps me like just remind myself that this is like a journey, and I can't like take them to the grave with me. I like to give records away, that sort of thing. And so I really try not to hold on to too many holy grails, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And I love that you said that one of your most prized records is like this, you know, record that you only got for a few dollars. Because while I also collect vinyl, but it's not nearly as extensive as a collection as most people, some of my favorite records that I've gotten over the years are like these like really weird, random, like $1.50, $2 bin records, where it's like a, I don't know, like a weird extended dance edit of a Talking Heads track from Russia, and it's just this very absurd kind of thing, but it's so fun and
Yeah,
happy and jovial.
and when it hits, it hits. It becomes like kind of infectious, you know. And every time you hear it, you kind of growing a connection to it. And maybe at some point that I might fall out of love with this, and there'll be another one to replace it. But I think that to me is like the beautiful part of it. Is just not holding on to one specific thing, but just moving along this journey and trying to take in as much awesome art as I can.
And, going back to, LCD sound system from before, like when James Murphy started DJing, which is like I'm a James Murphy obsessive. It's the tism in me. Um, James Murphy, like when he started DJing, even he was like going out of his way to find records that nobody else was playing. So
Yeah.
like the most like absurd, crazy stuff. So that way, people would always be surprised. And,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, and I think that's part of the joy of having, some of these like hidden gems in your back pocket that you can just
Yeah.
like pull out. And people are like, oh my God, what's that Pokemon? I've never seen that one before.
What's
Uh,
the common adage? Like a good DJ will play music that the room wants to hear, and a great DJ will play music the room didn't know they wanted to hear.
yeah, something like that. Um, so you did bring up one of my favorite producers of the 21st century, rest in peace, Sophie. Um, and I do think it's important to acknowledge that this session is going to be airing during Pride Month. Um, and uh, right now, not just in the United States, like in the world, there is a witch hunt against the trans community. And I know that myself as a trans woman, I'm sure that you feel a similar pressure societally in kind of like the ecosystem we're living in right now. Um, I just wanted to know, as it pertains to music, um, I guess what's your stance, or how do you feel about um, this is a very overarching question, of course, and so feel free to like go in there and address it however you want. But in terms of like providing visibility, validation for the community, in terms of injecting a bit of your identity into the music you're making, the music you're playing, and uh, as it pertains to kind of like where we're at politically, um, where do you feel like there's uh, a sort of political need to address that with the way that you approach being a DJ and an artist? Very I could have addressed this question much easier if I had written it down. However, it's I kind of think you might know where I'm going with this, so I'm just gonna
Yeah,
pass
and I
the ball your way.
I definitely get the sentiment. And yeah, I mean, I do want to point out that Sophie was a big part of my journey with being a trans woman, and having that sort of exposure affected me, right? And so you kind of have to think about how that exposure, you living your life and in a public way and thriving and being seen by someone who might not quite understand yet, or for whatever reason on their journey, like need that exposure. I needed that for sure. Someone introducing me to Sophie's music affected me greatly. Um, so yeah, I mean, that I definitely think is a driving force for me in wanting to sort of put my out there, wanting to um, be expose myself in that sort of way. and being vulnerable in a very public way as well. I like the idea of leaving behind art because it's a great way to, for me at least, I found to leave behind ideas that I think can be somewhat indelible or passed on. We're only here for a short period of time, and that's important for me to at least leave stories behind because the stories that other people left behind have affected my own journey. I'm a big believer that no idea is original, that we're all getting them from somewhere, so why not put out um, the sort of ideas that you're living and the chance that they might help someone. I think after Sophie passing was a big moment for me in realizing that I wanted to put myself out there more, but also on my in doing that, I also was able to meet a lot more trans creators here in LA, and I think we all kind of feel that way to a certain extent. That just putting ourselves out there and thriving in the public is important. It's important work. I know there's a lot of other avenues and ways to help this fight. And there's advocacy to be done, but most importantly, like ideas to be spread and conversations to be had, and that starts with simply just being seen by a bunch of people who don't know who you are and sort of putting it out there first and foremost. I am a proud trans woman, but I am not just that. DJing is just kind of one thing that I found for me coming from a musical background is like a great way for me and during my transition to sort of see how I fit in this world and what is going to serve me and make me happy and help me thrive. But there are a lot of other amazing trans people doing incredible stuff, not just in music, but everywhere. And I think that lifting those people right now is important because you're right, our rights and our very identity and safety and security is being attacked at the cultural level, at the systemic and legislative level right now, and it is scary, but so it's great to acknowledge it and talk about it. And at the same time, there are moments where DJing and dance music in particular, and these communities around the music, they're allowing us to one feel joy, which we still deserve, and should be finding time for, despite how really bad things can be and are. But at the same time, experiencing joy together, I think, is also going to lead us to having the support structures that we need to continue this fight. To put a lot of these amazing people who are all affected by this in the same room, so that we can have these discussions that we're having now. And yeah, because there's more I can say there, but I think to kind of back to your point, Sophie, and sort of her art and her popularity and exposure affected me and a lot of other trans people, and I would like to think that it's important to lift more trans voices, not just in music but elsewhere, so that we kind of show the world that we're here and we're not going anywhere, and also to help show younger people who might be coming from places where either they don't quite understand this yet or need the support, and even just having I wasn't introduced to anyone trans when I was younger. That can be huge. That could have been huge for me. And so, yeah, more exposure for trans people.
I love that you wanted to put an emphasis on um, the need for marginalized communities to experience joy in addition to experiencing other things that we have to deal with, like the anger and all of that stuff. Because you're 1,047% correct. In the sense that during times like these, where things are stressful, um, especially in the LGBTQ community, the nightclub is a haven. It's a church where people can find communion, and the fact that you are carrying the torch of DJs that came before us, in trying to create that safe space for people to feel seen and heard and safe, I think is not just important in today's landscape, it's necessary. I just want to thank you for that. From one artist to another, because uh, it is a being a DJ has a lot of like upsides, but there's like a whole like brutal side to it that people don't see a lot of the time. So
For sure.
it can be an unforgiving life, but the the stress that goes into it, I think, gets washed away by the joy that we give people. And I love the fact that you are pursuing that in your artistry. Um, just really quick, you did make a guest mix for Femme House Radio this month.
Yeah.
What Just to set up listeners for what they can expect, like what kind of vibes did you bring for us?
I brought a wide variety of genres. I'm not really sticking to any sort of cohesive BPM, if you will, which is I do these sets sometimes as well, but I do a lot of other like dance sets. There will be some dance music as well, but I think my focus here was to try and highlight as many um, trans artists that I'm inspired by as possible in one mix, and to kind of show listeners like the breadth of music that trans artists are creating right now.
Love
So
that.
kind of jumps all over the place, but you might discover some new people. You might hear some people you already know about. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. And some of it's a little dark, and some of it's a little happy. Like all of our emotions, they go all over the place, and that's kind of where I'm at with this mix. Yeah,
You're taking people on a journey.
exactly.
And I guess really quick, do you have anything coming up that you would like to plug? Anything new or exciting that you have on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, Pride Month is coming up, and that always means there's a ton of great events going on that I'm going to be checking out a bunch of friends' DJ sets. I'll be playing a couple as well. Agora Records and Mel are partnering up to do a vinyl Pride event. So I'll be spinning some records for that on the 27th. Definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to when this mix will air, obviously, and more from Femme House. Let's see. I have a track that I just had come out last Friday with Tressie called "Feeling Down." So definitely go give that a spin, and you'll also hear it in the mix as well. Um, and also next week I have another track dropping with a friend of mine, Tori Diswaldo, and she is an incredible poet and has graced me with collaborating with me on a dance track where she's offered her poetry over some music, and excited about that coming out. So definitely keep an eye out for that next week.
That is so. I can't wait to hear the new music. As a fan of yours, as a fan of your artistry, and just in awe of the impact that you've had on the scene in New York, but particularly LA. I just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me, for the Femme House crew, to talk about your journey. Um, Eva Myra May, you're one of a kind. Thank you so much for being here,
Heavyweight, thank you.
and welcome to the Femme House family. We're happy to have you.
Oh, happy to be here. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to hear the other mixes, and I know there's a lot of other great programming coming. So, yeah, again, thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited.
Yeah, of course,
And
anytime.
let me know next time you're in LA, so we can definitely, I want to catch a set of yours either here or if I make it out your way.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yee.